So, 2024 was probably one of the more chaotic seasons in F1 that I've watched. It was certainly up there with 2021. It had loads of controversy, loads of news. For example, Hamilton going to Ferrari, Horner and his allegations at the start of last season with Red Bull. Also, Red Bull falling apart, Adrian Newey leaving, and towards the end of last season, Verstappen and Russell wanting to put each other in the wall. So here's my 2025 predictions and why I think 2025 will be a lot closer compared to previous seasons. So to kick things off, I'm putting Gabriel Bortoleto right at the bottom in 20th. Now, Bortoleto won F2 last season. I think there's a good driver in him. I've not personally seen a lot of things about Bortoleto myself, and I don't think Sauber are going to give him a good enough car for him to prove himself this season. Next, I'm going for Isack Hadjar. I think Isack Hadjar's obviously come into F1 very last minute, and the only reason I'm putting him above Bortoleto is because I think the Racing Bull will be a lot better than the Sauber. However, I think we all know that Hadjar would not be in that seat this season anyway if Perez didn't have such a shocker in 2024. Then Lawson and Tsunoda would still be in that Racing Bull seat, and obviously Perez and Verstappen would still be in the Red Bull seats. So next, I'm putting in another rookie. I know this looks bad on the rookies, but I'm putting in Jack Doohan. Now, Jack Doohan was in F2 for quite a while. I last watched F2 properly in 2021, which is about 4 years ago now, and he was still there. And to be in F2 that long doesn't look good as a driver. Now, I know Alpine don't really promote their young drivers that often, so this is a big chance for Jack Doohan. But there's also rumours going around he's not even going to make it past the third race. Flavio Briatore, I think that's how you pronounce his name anyway, doesn't rate him all that much, and there's a clause in his contract that only guarantees Jack Doohan to race in the first 3 races. So next, I'm putting in Lance Stroll. Now, I'm not Stroll's biggest fan. I don't think he's the best driver in the world. I've obviously, there's been worse drivers than Lance Stroll, but there's also a lot better drivers, and I think it's no secret he is only in that Aston Martin seat because of his dad. I also think Lance Stroll holds Aston Martin back way too much. I think if you had someone like Tsunoda in that car alongside Alonso, then they'll be a lot higher and fighting for more points. Also, Stroll makes way too many mistakes. For example, last season in Brazil, probably one of the most embarrassing things I've seen from an F1 driver. Now, I'm not saying I'll do better than Stroll, because I'm not an F1 driver. I'm just some skinny kid who's still living with his parents at 20. But yeah, I think spinning out the car on a formation lap is bad enough alone, but then to drive the car through the gravel, still on the formation lap, and then to get stuck and knock yourself out the race is completely embarrassing, and shows why Aston Martin need to take up some courage and tell the boss, Lawrence Stroll, to kick his son out of the team, because he's really holding them back. So next, I'm going for Nico Hülkenberg. Now, I think Hülkenberg is one of the more underrated drivers on the grid. He's always been really impressive, even though he's never really had the podium, and he's had many chances to get a podium. I don't think Sauber are going to be all that this season. As I said with Bortoleto, I think they're going to be probably the worst car on the grid yet again, and they won't give Hülkenberg the chance to score that many points. But I think with how good Hülkenberg can be, he will score quite a few points this season in 3 or 4 races. Also, towards the end of last season, he was so impressive with Haas. Well, to be honest, not even towards the end of last season. For the whole of 2024, he was really impressive with Haas. His race pace was always there. He made regular Q3 appearances, which is why I think Hülkenberg will have another good season. So next, I'm going for Alex Albon. I think Albon is a really good driver, but he's going to struggle against Sainz. And I think this because Sainz is just that step above Albon. I am also thinking that Albon's going to crack a bit under the pressure of Sainz outperforming him, because that's what will happen. To be fair to him though, he has been carrying Williams on his back for the last few seasons, but he's never really had the greatest teammates, apart from Colapinto, who did put Albon under a bit of pressure at the end of 2024. Logan Sargent was never that special, and obviously Nicholas Latifi, well, I don't need to say much about him, do I? When he was with Verstappen, he really struggled, and I think Sainz isn't as good as Verstappen, but he's at a close level, and Albon's obviously that level below. And I don't think Albon's going to have the capability of beating Sainz. He will score a few points, but Sainz will outperform him. So next I'm going for Yuki Tsunoda. Now, Tsunoda's got a point to prove this season. He's going to feel so hard done by not getting that Red Bull seat. I personally think he should have got it, but now because Red Bull have ignored him and not given him that second seat, I think Tsunoda's got to find a way out of Racing Bulls this season and the Red Bull system as a whole. I think he should be eyeing up Aston Martin for 26 or 27 when Alonso's probably going to leave, because I think Aston Martin are one of the teams to look out for, with Adrian Newey coming in, the new headquarters in Silverstone. Well, I say headquarters, what's it called? The factory. The new factory in Silverstone. I think Aston Martin will be one of the big teams within the next few years, and Tsunoda needs to look at going there. I think he's finally found consistency. He makes a lot less mistakes than he used to, like he did in 21 to 2023, but he's got a point to prove this season. He's got to beat Hadjar. If he doesn't beat Hadjar, that's not going to look good for him. But Yuki Tsunoda will be 14th. So in 13th, I'm putting Esteban Ocon. Now, I think Haas is a really good move for Ocon. Haas are on their way up. Alpine clearly didn't want Ocon towards the end of last season. His relationship with Gasly didn't appear to be the best. Obviously, we all know they weren't best friends growing up, and I think either one of them two needed to go, and Alpine clearly favoured Gasly to Ocon. But I do think Behrman's going to beat him, and I'll get into why I think that a bit later. But Ocon will only be 13th. He'll have a good season, he'll score a few points, but I don't think he will be as impressive as other drivers. So next I'm going for Carlos Sainz. Now, I think Sainz is really going to outperform the Williams. I think he's going to be scoring points at a good amount of races, and I also think Carlos Sainz will be taking Williams into the right direction. Now, Williams have needed an experienced driver for quite a while. Albon's done a really good job, but he's still quite a young driver. Sainz is really experienced now, and I think with his knowledge and his experience in F1, he can help Williams develop that car into a solid midfield team. And I think he's also at Williams for the long run. I think if he wasn't, he probably would have gone to Mercedes or Red Bull, or maybe even to Sauber because of the Audi transition, which I think Sauber will be a team to watch out for when they do become Audi. But I also think Williams could be a team to watch out for now they've got Sainz, and Sainz will start taking Williams into that right direction, back towards the top. In 11th, I'm going for Ollie Behrman. Now, I think Ollie Behrman's going to be the most impressive rookie this season. Last year when he came in to fill out for other drivers in races, he was really, really impressive, especially in Saudi Arabia for Ferrari. To outqualify Hamilton, knock him out of Q2, to score points in that race was incredible, and he showed a lot of potential as well. This is why I think Behrman is an exciting rookie, because he's got some relative experience now in F1. He's been around at Ferrari Young Driver Academy for years, had 2 good seasons in F2, and I think he's ready for F1, and I think he will impress. In 10th, I'm going for Pierre Gasly. Now, this prediction is based off Alpine continuing at the end of 2024 into 2025. Now, throughout most of 2024, Alpine were really poor, not impressive at all, but then they got that podium in Brazil, and then since Brazil they really started to perform well, especially Gasly. He was getting points regularly. I think he qualified in the top 3 once as well, which is really impressive to do in an Alpine. We all know if Gasly's given a chance, he can get a podium and maybe even a win. That's not going to happen, but you never know. We've seen stranger things. So in ninth, I'm going for Fernando Alonso. Now, Alonso is one of the best drivers on the grid, and he will score points regularly. I think as well, Aston Martin are going to improve over the season, having Adrian Newey on board. He will know how to develop that car. Also with Aston Martin, I think they're a team to look out for in the future, with Honda engines coming in. Whether or not Alonso's going to want to stick around is another question, because he's getting quite old now, and he might want to start doing other things, which opens the door for Tsunoda to come in. But for now, I think Alonso's obviously going to be Aston Martin's main driver. He'll be the best driver, obviously, because he's against Stroll. Anyone could beat Stroll. Probably even Logan Sargent could beat Lance Stroll. But yeah, Alonso will be ninth. Next, I'm going for Kimi Antonelli. Now, Mercedes are taking a huge risk putting Antonelli in that car. The last time a rookie had a full season with one of the big teams was Hamilton at McLaren in 2007. Now, we all know what happened there. Hamilton had an amazing rookie season, beating Alonso, nearly winning the championship. He probably would have won the championship if it wasn't for that mistake he made in China. Now, Antonelli shows great potential because he's risen through F3 and F2 really quickly. Now, the only problem with that is, has he risen through too quickly? We saw it with Sargent and we saw it with Tsunoda at the start of his F1 career. He came straight from F3 to F2 to F1 and really struggled in his first season in F1. And my concern is that's going to be the same for Antonelli. But if Mercedes gave him a chance and find a consistent car, he will have a good season. And he could even sneak in a race win if given the right scenario. For example, like we saw with Russell in Austria last year, where Lando and Max had that crash and Russell was there to pick up the pieces. You never know, that could happen for Antonelli as well. So next, I'm going for Liam Lawson. Now, this season is make or break for Liam Lawson. People have been shouting for years to put him in that car, and he's finally been given the opportunity, but can he live up to that potential? We do know how ruthless Red Bull can be, and if Lawson doesn't impress, he will be booted out towards the end of 2025 or even halfway through, we don't know, and they might put Tsunoda in that car, but I doubt that will happen. He will be better than Perez was in 2024. Will he get a win? It depends how good Red Bull are this season, because they've lost Newey. I don't think things are great behind the scenes, and I think that could affect their performance throughout 2025, but we'll see as time goes on. Also, another question with Liam Lawson, is he ready to be in that Red Bull seat? Because what you've got to remember is, as much as he's impressed, he's not had a full season yet in F1, which is why I think Tsunoda should have been put in that second seat. So because he's not had a full season yet in F1, and obviously he doesn't know how to handle being in a top team yet, is that going to affect his performance, especially at the start of the season? So next I'm going for Russell. And with Russell this season, it's all about consistency. I think he can fight for wins if Mercedes give him a consistent car. Because the problem with Mercedes is, over the last few years, since the regulation changes in 2022, they've never been consistent with their car. They've never been able to understand it. And it's a huge problem for them. And it affects their performance, obviously. But I think it also affects Russell's performances as well, because he can never trust that car. Because each race weekend, it seems to be different. But when the car's right, Russell is a really, really good driver, and he can get a win. And I think he will get a few wins in 2025. So in fifth, I'm going for Lewis Hamilton. Now, as a Hamilton fan, it pains me to put him in fifth, but I've got to be realistic. Obviously, he's going to be the most talked about driver this season, especially at the start of the season, because he's finally gone to Ferrari, probably to finish off his career. Will he win the 8th championship? I think it's going to take Hamilton time to adapt. I think everyone's expecting big things from him, and that might affect him a bit. Also, his qualifying is nowhere near as good as it used to be. Like, he got knocked out of Q1 and Q2 way too many times last season, and it cost him a lot of points as well. His race pace is still really good. We saw it in Abu Dhabi and we saw it in Las Vegas, obviously Silverstone as well, where he got that win. But we'll have to wait and see with Hamilton. I think he will have a good season. He's not going to be in the championship fight, but he will get a few wins. So next I'm going for Oscar Piastri. Now, I think the top 4 this season is going to be really, really close. I think we're going to have a really close championship battle between them. He's going to be a lot closer to Lando over the season than he has been in the last 2 seasons, as long as he finds consistency at every track, which I think has been a bit of a problem for Piastri. There were a few races last season where he was nowhere near Lando, but there were a few races where you could say he was probably better than Lando. Look at Baku. Baku for Piastri last year was incredible. To hold Leclerc off for that amount of time and to still win that race was very impressive. Also with Piastri, he never seems to crack under pressure. For example, when someone's behind him on a straight going into a tight corner, into an overtaking zone, he never dives to the inside. He always stays on his line, and it saves him so much time. It doesn't put him in a vulnerable position, which is probably what he is best at. So I'm going to put Piastri 4th, but he will be in a championship fight. So in 3rd, I'm going for Verstappen. Now, I'm putting Verstappen 3rd because I don't think Red Bull are going to have a good car this season compared to previous seasons. Now, he will still be in a championship fight. To still win the championship last season was very impressive because he was still able to get the car into the top 5, sometimes even the podium, and he started getting a few wins again towards the end of last season. And we all know Verstappen's capable of winning championships, of outperforming the car. But the problem with Verstappen is when he gets put under pressure, he starts to lose his head. We saw it in Austria with Lando. We saw it in Hungary with Hamilton last year, where he started going mental on the radio. He started going mental on the radio to the point even his own race engineer had to tell him to calm down. So I think Verstappen's going to feel that pressure again this year. It's going to affect him, and he will only be 3rd. But like Piastri, he will be in the championship fight. So into the top 2 now, and in 2nd, I've gone for Lando Norris. Now, I think Lando has got a championship in him, but I don't think he's quite ready yet. This is because he makes too many mistakes, especially at the start of a race. We see many times he gets pole position, but then he loses the lead into turn 1. Happened in Hungary, happened in Spain, happened in Monza, and that affects him. It even happened in Zandvoort, but he's still able to win that race. Now, Lando's race pace is really good. We saw it in Singapore where he obliterated Verstappen. I think he won by 20 seconds, which was impressive. But because of the mistakes he makes, I don't think he will win the championship yet. 2026 or 27 may be his year, but 2025 will not be. And that leads me into who will be first. And if you haven't figured it out by now, that will be Charles Leclerc. Now, I think Leclerc is finally ready for a championship battle. It's been building up for a few years. He's been sorting out his consistency, which I think now is finally there. We saw in 2022, he made way too many mistakes, for example in France. But I think he's got them mistakes out of him now, and he will fight for the championship, and he will probably win it. I think Ferrari will have the joint best car with McLaren, and then Red Bull will be 2nd. And I think out of the drivers from Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren, Leclerc is up there as the 2nd best with Verstappen, if not joint best. I also think Leclerc is entering his prime years, which is why he's now ready for this championship fight, and he will bring it to McLaren and to Red Bull if their car is good enough. But anyway guys, there's my championship predictions. Let me know in the comments down below what your championship predictions are. Leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.